On today's show, we have a dream from Tracy, and Tracy feels like she doesn't fit in. She hasn't found her tribe, but the dream shows that her connection and her tribe is her personal connection with God. She's not meant to fit in with everybody else. She's meant to be on the outside, able to see how everybody else is and how everybody else is happy within a system or attached to a system. But that's not for her. And her life purpose, indeed, is about discovering that that's not what it is meant to be for her. Her path is unique, her tribe is spiritual, and her personal connection with God is where her place is. Welcome to the Dream Interpretation Podcast with Michael and Sandy.
Hello, welcome everybody. We are so excited you are here. We have a really great dream for today. It's very, very interesting, and we only have time to do the one. It's a beautiful long dream, and Michael, I'm excited to get started on it. Do you have any thoughts before we dive in?
No, except that when you're going through a difficult period in life, which is where this dreamer is at, we can often have dreams that make sense of all of it, but they don't just make sense of this difficult period. They make sense of the whole rest of your life. And they say, look, this is where you're heading. All of this had a purpose. And it's very reassuring. So here we're looking at one dream, but I've seen other dreams from this dreamer. And typically when I see this type of dream, their life is going to make sense within a few weeks. You know, it's like, okay, I get it. I know what it was all about. And I have now reached this really, really good state within myself that just makes me feel joy. So it's a sad dream, but it's good to see it because of the context in which these types of dreams normally appear on.
It's titled Travels Across London, but Scolded by a Woman. Ooh, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to break it up and ask you questions and have you dive in the middle of some of them, okay?
Yep.
I am making my way across London on my own. I find myself moving through a huge church, which is full of very enthusiastic young congregation with lots of Black people. I reckon it's a regularly weekly event, perhaps after work, and the people are very enthusiastic to attend church. It was an American Baptist or evangelical feel, with a Black pastor at the front speaking into microphones with great energy. And there's a band. Okay, Michael, you want to give us some comments?
So yeah, it's a long dream. We'll get through as much of it as we can. The Black pastors and Black congregation, to her, they are super enthusiastic. Like if you're in a Black church, there's such conviction and passion and everything, and that's what they represent: the conviction and passion for Tracy. It's a spiritual dream because it takes place in a church, and really the whole point of this dream, it's a long dream, but it should have ended in the church scene. And we'll see that coming up. But so it's about her spirituality or her connection with God, let's say. She is English and she's moving across London, like she says. So she's on a journey, but she arrives at the very start of this dream at the destination, but doesn't stop there. So I've kind of spoiled that a little bit. But anyway, it's a spiritual dream. So let's keep going.
Alrighty. This design of church is unusual, circular with a central atrium and cloisters more peripherally. I make my way through the cloisters and can see the central area where the pastors are doing their thing. All right, Michael, let's see what you have to say.
So this is interesting. I've seen this many times before, and I've seen it in meditations. And it's like, first of all, the circular reference, the circular church tells us this is about God. So it's not just spirituality. I mean, we know the church is about God because it's about talking to God, communication with God and all that stuff. But here in the dream, it's what it's about, especially because of the circle, because circle is the universal symbol for God. And if you look at how the world is depicted, if you channel and get a picture from the spirit world, they will show like we have the foundation here on the earth plane, and then it's all circular. And then there's a layer above that's a smaller circle where beings at a higher level are watching what's happening at our level. And then you go up further and there's more beings at another level watching what's happening at the level below them. And it just keeps going all the way up to God. And that's what this symbolism is about. It's when you connect with God on this planet, you're not just connecting with, say, an abstract or broken or fragmented piece of God. It's only God on this planet because the connection is all the way up there. And so this is a really terrific symbol for her to have in her dream.
Very interesting. All right, I like the band, so we're going to continue on. I hear the band and I see three black guys playing the guitars, perhaps not perfectly in time with what the rest of the band is playing. I start doing a simple shuffle step, like line dancing as I walk along. This attracts the attention of a man who comes to walk next to me. I think he wants to ask me to join them and perform. I'm friendly to him, but insist I'm really not that good, and the simple stuff is all I can do. All right, Michael.
So, problem here, this is where the dream should have ended. She should have accepted his invitation and stayed there. You know, I mean, she knew it was a fun place. It's how many times would you be going through a place and have such an amount of resonance with it that you're going to start dancing? And that's what she's doing here. But she's still like, oh no, well, I'm not good enough. And like she says about the guitar players, they weren't perfect either. And they're okay with being in the band. But she has to be perfect, even though clearly nobody has to be perfect. All are welcome here, kind of thing. But that's the point of the dream. Is like, this is your destination. You have arrived at this place. It's terrific. And here's the invitation extended to you by the pastor, who's the guide in the dream. And she turns him down. And she continues to limit herself throughout the rest of the dream.
Oh no. Well, let's see what happens through the rest of the dream. The entrance to the church had wide stone steps and tended area out front. I'm now flying. Ooh, I like that. Gently touching down in time with the music in various places while floating over people's heads. I can't find a way out of the tented area, so I go up and find a gap in the canvas between the ceiling and the wall. I squeeze up past a young man who is also hovering there, and he makes a polite remark. It's busy and crowded. The atmosphere is old-fashioned, like London in the 40s, but also has a feeling of America/Americans. I go down to the street, still on my journey to my destination. A busy double-decker red bus drives past, and I turn left, and I find myself in the underground. I think I'm going to Waterloo. I'm in a tunnel complex with curved, tiled walls. I realize I don't have my purse and wonder where I left it. I'm wondering how I'm going to use the tube without any money to pay for the train. I think I have to start walking through the pedestrian tunnels following the signs. All right, Michael, let's see what you have to say.
So here we go again. First of all, she had difficulty getting out of that first place. And she has to go out through a gap at the top and all that sort of stuff. And then she gets here. So in other words, it's not easy to get away from where she should have been. And then she gets into this other place. She says old-fashioned, maybe 40s London. And this is a feeling for this dreamer. It's pervasive throughout her life. She feels like she's out of place. It's almost like if the world was set back 60 years ago and everybody had that mentality, then she would feel like, oh, I'd fit in. That's really where I belong. I'm out of time by maybe 60 years or so. But of course, that wouldn't be true. That's just how she feels that she's out of time. Anyway, so here we have, she could get this bus, and it's a busy double-decker bus, a red bus, even red, which is nice, right? Fits in with the passion that we had earlier. And she decides, oh, I don't have the money for this. She realizes she doesn't have her purse. And she tells me later on that she knew she had left her purse in the church. So it's like, that's where you should be going back to, because that's where you should be. But she decides she doesn't have the money, so she's going to have to walk. So again, limiting herself in some way. It's her dream. You can do whatever you want. You can just get on the bus and say, I don't have the money, take me where I want to go. But she doesn't. So it's her own limitations or her own tendency to put a limitation on herself when she doesn't need to put one on herself is what's showing up in the dream here.
Excellent. Okay. Well, at least now we're seeing the crux of the matter. So let's continue on. I find a central hub point where several corridors lead off, and the sign pointing to Waterloo is the furthest left tunnel. I follow it and find myself in front of a large wall display of a map showing where you are. I see a large circular building depicted on the map. I'm reminded of Albert Hall and the names of different underground stations, including Bank. There are a few stone steps going up to the map display, and as I pause there planning my next move, I'm surprised and relieved to discover I have my purse and phone back, and I think that someone, a guide question mark, must have heard me. It's like I recognize that's what I needed, and state in a dream is understood and can materialize through the involvement of some unknown, unseen source. Wow, that's a change. Very interesting. Okay, Michael.
All right, so we go back to the corridors, a state of transition. That's good. She is in a state of transition. Things are changing a lot in her life. But here in the dream, the corridor is good. She has this destination in her head and it's the furthest away and all that sort of stuff. But she's already left her destination, like it should have been the church. But then we see a map, which is always good in a dream. A map is about discovering where you are. It's not about where do I need to go to, but like when we pick up a map, we have to figure out where we are on the map. And so that's what it symbolizes in a dream. You might think you're in a certain place, but now the map symbol says, look, this is where you are. And she sees a large circular building on the map. Now, what was the first building? It was a church, which is a circular church. Again, very unusual. So that's what it's trying to get her into. And the circular here again, the circle is the symbol for God, universal symbol for God, going way, way, way back. And then she even mentions a bank, so it's God through the heart, but it's really the emphasis on accessing her own spiritual connection with God. I like that the map is up a few stone steps, like she says. So it's putting it in a prominent place for her. So discovering where she's at is the point while she plans her next move. Like, don't just keep going. Don't just keep heading to where you think you need to go. Figure out where you are already because you're probably at your destination.
So let's talk about the band. Why a band? And I love the fact there's 3 guys playing guitars, but they're not perfectly in tune.
She's able to channel. And of course, she sees a flaw in her channeling. 3 is about commitment, but it's like it's not perfect, but she can do it. And she's had other dreams that are saying, hey, yeah, you need to get into this channeling state and contemplate things, contemplate the universe, contemplate your position in it. She has this unique position where she thinks she doesn't fit into anything, but that's her mission this time around. Her life purpose is to realize she doesn't fit, but that's okay. That where she is, where she belongs, is in this place that's outside of everything else, and that's her home place. That's where she's going to feel good. And she can also look at everybody else who's attaching themselves to cogs in the system. People often think that they're an important cog, but the way the spirit world says it is, the cog's already turning. You just attach yourself to the cog, and then you think you have this great position of power within the system, but that cog is just going in circles. It doesn't take you anywhere. And by the time you finish in this lifetime, you're going to have gone nowhere. And so she's looking at people doing that, and for all of her life wondering, why don't I fit in? And they're saying, you don't want to fit in.
Okay, and then she's flying.
Yes, so she is currently having dreams that are all about the masculine and, feeling that, am I alone? Am I on my own? Is there anybody with me? Do I have a tribe? Is anybody supporting me? That would be like the core wound of the masculine energy. I don't feel safe is probably how it comes up as a feeling for us, but we feel safe when we find our tribe. So it's focusing on the masculine and deficits in her own masculine energy. But a positive in the masculine is the ability to mentally rise above your problems. And that's what flying represents. So it's moving away from the heart, which is the bank in the dream, and it's the circles in the dream. So that's where she needs to get into. But her own logic makes her move away from the very place she should be.
Oh, wow. Very interesting. And then let's see. So we go down a little bit further. So I talked about she has her purse and her phone back. So what's going on with that?
They're both symbols for the heart because she's British, and a purse is a wallet in Britain. And so you have the bank and the purse and the circles, all symbols for the heart. And she's got that back. It's good. It's an improvement, especially because she says, I believe that one of my guides got it back from me. And she's had other dreams about this where they've said to her, ask us to do things for you. She has this habit of asking for guidance. Like, could you please tell me the way to go? How do I solve this problem? And a lot of us are guilty of that. Absolutely ask those things, but also say, and by the way, if you could fix this problem for me by yourselves, please do it. Dig the ditch for me. Don't necessarily tell me how to dig the ditch, And so she's been reminded by little things like this that are happening in her dreams that they will do the things for you that they can do and make your life easier.
Wow, that's wonderful. All right, let's continue on. I also noticed I'm wearing a 50s style summer dress with short sleeves and a blue/white pattern. Dexy, my dog, is with me now on a lead. An American tourist approaches me from the crowd and compliments Dexy on her good looks. He reaches out to pat her, and I say how he should be careful and ask before he reaches out to touch a dog, as this breed can be sharp. I start explaining her breed type, and then a disembodied voice starts speaking like a disgruntled British woman, telling the man how Dexy is not a good example of this breed and that she comes from a foreign stock that is aggressive. And that's not what we have in the UK. She's scolding and critical, and I know I'm her target. I tell the man that I understand what the woman is saying and that Dexy was a little sharp when she was young. I explain that the UK breeding programs focus on friendliness in the dog. But more importantly, I want to find out who this woman speaking is and how she's been watching or listening to us. I find a square black GoPro camera attached to Dexy's lead under her chin, and I systematically turn each camera and microphone off. I feel the woman has been spying on me. All right, Michael. That's an interesting thing.
There's a lot in this part. She's wearing a 50s style summer dress. I like the short sleeves. I like the blue and white. That's all positive. They're positive colors and a positive sleeveless dress, like nothing hidden up your sleeves. But dogs and dreams are often about, we come into this world as a human, with all the abilities, all the natural instincts for how to flirt, how to be intimate with somebody, how to be comfortable, all that sort of stuff. It's all baked into us. And a person like this who ends up in their head, who is flying in their dreams, they tend to move away from the heart to such an extent that they lose the connection with those natural instincts that we have. And so everything becomes a struggle. And so this part of the dream is all about that struggle and her keeping people at a distance. So rule one of dreams is you're everything in the dream. So the dog represents her ability to be close to other people or intimate with other people. And she has the dog on a lead. So that means I'm restricting this part of myself. And she says, a tourist approaches me, that's a good thing, and compliments the dog, that's very good, says she's good looking. So this is somebody coming at me saying I'm good looking. And then she says, he reaches out to pat the dog. And I say, you should be careful and ask before reaching out to touch a dog. So I don't want people to touch me. And I chastise people who try to get close to me. It's sad to see this because this is going to be throughout life for her. And then that part about the breed, this is something that actually did happen to her. She has a dog that doesn't fit in with British breeders, and she got chastised for that and excluded from a particular program. But why does she dream about this? You can go, oh, that just happened in her life. That's why it's in there. No, this is how she feels. She feels like she's not part of a group. Even though the very first group in the dream, the religious group and pastor and so on, said, stay with us, join us. And so she turns away from that and then has this problem throughout the rest of the dream. But what else have we got? The GoPro. I love this piece. Cameras are a symbol of sexuality. They represent the reproductive system in a dream. They reproduce images of things. So it's the reproductive system. And it's attached to the dog. And I said the dog was about intimacy. So the two are perfectly aligned. And she turns it off, though. And then she also turns off the microphone. And she says that she was afraid that this woman was spying on her. So it's not that women are spying. And this critical woman, by the way, is mom. It's mom being critical and sharp and all those various other things. But she turns off these aspects of her own nature. And the microphone, she turns off or turns everything down so the other people can't hear her. So it's kind of like if I speak out loud or if I express myself in some way, like if I dance earlier on or I am intimate with somebody, then people will spy on me through my expression. Does that make sense? So I won't express myself and then nobody will be able to see anything about me.
Wow, that's very interesting how you got to that. So we have a square and a black and then the GoPro camera. So what's the square mean? Then the color black.
So it's the same, it's limitation. The square and the black is negativity because on this part, not at the earlier part of the dream. But so she sees this and it looks at this in a negative way. So I don't view sexual expression in a positive way. And I don't view me expressing how I feel like a microphone. If somebody hands me a microphone, what am I going to do? I'm not going to talk to anybody. I don't even want that microphone. I'm going to switch it off. So she doesn't view expression in a positive way. She's afraid of it almost.
Wow, what I find very interesting is at the front of the dream, the very beginning, it was so positive and it was such a great place. And then as we go through the dream, it starts pointing out characteristics and areas that she might need to work on or, or part of her issues that she's been going through life with. What do you get from that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we see the issue, right at the start, and we see her missing the opportunity in the dream. So I told her, just go back into this dream and accept the offer from the black pastor. That's the perfect thing to do in that dream. And then don't visualize any of the rest of the dream because that's where it should have stopped. But she's had this difficult life. She's now contemplating things because she's gone through a very difficult patch. And what's beautiful about the dream, though, is it says that she is now coming into this state of transition. Because remember, she had the corridor earlier as well.
Mm-hmm.
So she's coming into a state of transition that is going to culminate in her finding herself. But from looking at other dreams, I can say that the finding herself is not within the system that we live in. She's going to find herself and find that she's an independent woman, happy with where she is in that independent place, outside the system, looking at everybody else who's happy to be in the system. But this understanding of this is who I am is part of her connection with God. When I understand myself, I'll understand my connection with God, because expressing yourself as you are, the opposite of what she's doing at this point in the dream, is part of your connection with God.
Well, Michael, that's very interesting to see how far she's come and to actually see some of the things going on in her life. Now, let's continue on with the rest of the dream. A young man in a motorized wheelchair comes over to help me. He's an expert with electronic stuff. A couple of his friends also come over to help. I think they're going to make sure the spy equipment is safely turned off and they'll help me get where I need to go. Overall, the people in the dream were nice. It felt like an era where people had goodwill towards each other, not like today, all apart from the vicious woman. Mom, is that Mom? All right, Michael, what do you have to say?
We know it's about the masculine from earlier because she's getting the invite from a pastor that's male. And then we have this young man in a wheelchair. So we see that the masculine side is handicapped or limited in some way. And he comes over to help her, like the irony of that. But it shows that this is the side of her that's being worked on, her own masculine side. He is going to help her turn off all the spy stuff safely. That's not good. He shouldn't have done that. But we would expect that there's a limitation there because he's in a wheelchair. So he's like a fearful male, or, think of it this way. If somebody comes over to threaten you, you would expect that the man beside you is going to stand up and be taller than whoever's coming over. And it's like, yeah, take another step, buddy. That kind of energy about them. Whereas this is a diminished man in a wheelchair saying, I'm going to help you diminish yourself even further. So it's not a good thing that this even happened in the dream. And of course, she's blaming it on, well, mom is spying on me or women are spying on me. So I have to shut off all types of expression, which is sad. And she thinks that's going to get her to where she needs to go. No, terrible end to the dream. I like, though, that she did say everyone in the dream was nice except for this vicious woman. So overall, it did have a good feel. But we do see her saying that it felt like an era where everybody was nice to each other. So again, this is her feeling out of time. If she did find a time machine and did go back to the 50s, she would still feel out of touch with the world. It's just a sense of, I'm just a little bit out of sync, and I'm out of sync because I still have morals and values and various other things from an era when they meant something and they don't mean anything now. She does have attitudes of people who are older, but she still wouldn't fit in.
Okay, so based on this dream, because it seems like there's some masculine issues coming up, as well as her mom, which would be more of a feminine issue. Just trying to understand how the balance is being shown in the dream.
So mom can affect both masculine and feminine. Our parents can affect both energies. So it's a masculine energy deficiency, 100% given by the man in the wheelchair, like if we didn't get it from other things before. But she's had other dreams that show that that's the area they're working on now. And it just makes sense because of other things. I don't want to say what's going on in her life because it'll give away who she is to the people that know her. So it's no surprise that the dreams are working on the masculine. But mom contributed to this deficiency because mom causes her to not show up in the world the way she is. She doesn't express herself. She's afraid to. She switches off these things. And that's because of mom's influence. And masculine energy is all about not necessarily us expressing ourselves, but feeling safe to express ourselves, feeling safe in the world, feeling worthy of the space you occupy. That would be masculine energy. She doesn't have that for herself.
So she's got God at the start. She's got circles with heart, which points to the feminine side. And then she's got where we're seeing that the masculine side is being worked on. So how do we tie that together?
So the overall thing is about finding our tribe, finding connection. These are my people. I feel safe with these people. And I can be free to express myself. Because we see the people at the start, they're very enthusiastic. That's the big thing that she makes the point of. They're very enthusiastic and passionate about their expression of their faith or whatever it happens to be. And then we see as she moves away from there, the expression is diminished and then switched off. And so it all ties together with, I find myself in a place where I can be myself. And in being myself, I am connected to God. I'm connected through my heart, through my sense of feeling worthy of the space I occupy, and expressing how I feel and who I am, that I'm connected to God.
Wow, that's beautiful. I hope she can get there in this lifetime. Michael, I think that's all we have time for this week. We've got our summit coming up. So look forward to that. That's coming out at the end of March. And I'll see you next week.
Take care.